Hi, I'm Duncan Maclennan from the University of Glasgow at Policy Scotland and from the City Futures Centre at the University of New South Wales in Sydney. And I wanted to tell you about the work we've been doing and intend to do further on the effect of housing on the economy, largely through its impact on productivity. We started working in this area because the housing sector usually makes very good cases for public housing and other kinds of investment in housing by articulating the social needs and increasingly the environmental cases for better housing. However, apart from in times of big job downturns, we tend to lose productivity effects. Now, what are the productivity effects? Paul Krugman says that in economics, productivity is not everything, but it's almost everything. And essentially it's saying we can use resources, whether it's the talents of a housing association or land or capital or labour, if we can use them more effectively, we can actually deliver more. People can enjoy more things in life if productivity rises. Now, why do we say housing impacts productivity? Housing gives you your location nearer to or further away from work. It gives you size and space for children to grow and develop and learn. It's an asset and investment that influences your savings and whether you invest in housing or other things. And of course, it sets you in the context of a neighbourhood. So all these things we call housing characteristics. And these housing characteristics have an impact on the drivers of economic growth, how skills get formed, how innovation takes place, how, in a sense, capital gets used in the economy. And what we've done in a report in 2015 for Hooray was set out a framework for examining these things and beginning to piece the evidence together. In 2018, we produced a further report that was called Better Cases for Housing Investment, in which we drew together the evidence. For instance, if children are born into poor quality homes, they're often unhealthy. Later on in life, they'll have illness, they'll work less, human capital forms less well. If homes are too small, there's not enough room for children to develop and improve their educational performance. We also know that if people are at the bottom end of the rental sector and kids have to move every year or 2 years, by the age of 12, they're 2 years behind everyone else because of these housing sector effects. We can look at these things, but we can also look at, in the context of increasing pressures on household budgets and affordability. People are moving further and further away from city centres to be able to buy homes, but that's further away from jobs. It uses their travel time, it disconnects them from the benefits of high job densities. That affects productivity. We produced a report earlier this year, Strengthening Economic Cases, building on the previous work, where we made estimates of these things by working with SGS consultants from Melbourne. We planned a number of different scenarios. What if we built more affordable, better located housing, close to services, close to job density in metropolitan area like Sydney? It has a marked effect on productivity. It's not just about redistributing the cake. Do housing better and you improve economic growth. We also know that there are important other aspects that follow from increasing numbers of younger people spending longer and longer in rental housing, which is overpriced. In Sydney, we identified that people were basically losing a year of income every seventh year because of these excess housing costs. How does that impact savings? What does it do to consumption? How does it distort the economy? Not for the better, when basically people's incomes and surplus goes into driving up the price of existing bricks and mortar, rather than spending in education or spending on holidays even, activities that promote economic growth and change. We're working still on this further. We're going to look at this question of excess rents in the Australian context. And we're now working with the ESRC Productivity Network to develop a new conversation about housing and productivity. Too often, if you go to economic development agencies in Australia or Britain, they'll say, housing, nothing to do with us. Go along to the housing department and they'll say, housing in the economy, go away. We've got huge needs to meet, hardly any resources to deal with it, go and talk to somebody else. So we've gone and talked to the city planners, and they have a relatively low input in terms of economic drivers of change, and certainly don't get to the questions of productivity. National economies, national housing ministries, as well as finance ministries and treasuries, they need to take this question of housing productivity as seriously as they ever have. The affordability problem isn't part of the productivity problem. Thank you.